health.
The wellbeing budget. Do we reckon the Treasurer's been spending too much time in Nimbin? Just smoking the peace pipe?
I reckon.
Well, a Queensland council has come up with an extraordinary solution to the state's housing crisis. They're offering up its own land for more social housing. Moreton Bay Mayor Peter Flannery joins us now from Moreton Bay in Queensland, a gorgeous neck of the woods. Pete, good morning to you. How will the land deal work?
Yeah, what we've done, Carl, is we've decided that we want to try and step up to the plate and do our bit to help this crisis that's happening in South East Queensland. So we've tweaked our policy for community leasing now. So we've gone through and done an audit of vacant land that council has holding over and how we could probably use that land to a better use. So now we've got the ability to do a lease, a long-term lease up to 50 years with community housing providers to give them access to that land for a peppercorn for $1 a year so they can construct some dwellings and houses and get some roofs over people's heads here in South East Queensland and particularly Moreton Bay where that crisis is going, the numbers are increasing every day.
I think it's a lovely idea, but you're going to struggle to find builders. It's going to be the perpetual problem in Queensland heading towards the Olympics.
Yeah, it is, Carl, but there's funds out there at the moment. There's the housing fund that's out there, many billions of dollars. So we want these providers. I've had many meetings with them who said that it's all about the financial model, how they can make it stack up and make it work financially. The land component is a big element of that. So if they don't have to purchase that land, they can get some guarantee over that land for 50 years. They can build their product and get people in there, put a roof over their head. So it's a long-term solution. It's not an immediate fix. It's not going to be a rapid response to the emergency crisis that's happening for people who are sleeping rough. But this is a bit of a more long-term approach and about getting a roof over people's house, overhead, and also getting their mental health back into order, get a job and get them back into the community and being a great contributor to society.
How are the other locals around it who are in neighbouring suburbs?
We've identified a number of areas through our region. Redcliffe, Caboolture are probably our two target areas where there's a high number of people sleeping at rough now. They're sleeping in tents in parks. We get complaints from residents who are concerned about that and have issues with that. So we've got to react to that. And it's no good moving these people onto another park. It's about having a solution for them. So this is a federal and state government's responsibility. But we're going to step into the plate, try and play our little part of a role, a little lever that we can pull to try and
Good on you.
Provide some kind of solution to the problems that's happening.
Mayor, Progressive Forward-Thinking Council. Can't believe it. Good on you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I mean, there are obviously a number of factors that are leading to that. I just want to go to this. Jim Chalmers has handed down a long-awaited report today, which is meant to show us Australia's national wellbeing. But the problem is all the data is old. Richard, this wellbeing budget is using data from... Carl doesn't quite follow this idea of wellbeing, but let's just park that for a sec, because regardless of whether it matters or not, it's using data from 2017, I think 2020 as well. How is that an accurate representation of Australia today, Richard?
Oh, well, this is just the start of a process, Sarah, in terms of trying to look at ways in which we can have a more textured, more sophisticated view of the way the economy is playing into the health of the nation. And so this is just the start of the process. I mean, the answer to your question about what is a wellbeing budget, I mean, we look at things like economic growth, like inflation, like jobs numbers. They're obviously really important. But there are other indicators out there which speak to the way in which the economy is shaping our country and the way life is led within our country. And what we want to do is think about those indicators and look at whether there are different ways or more enhanced ways of measuring the impact of the economy on Australian society. This is just the start of the process. There's a whole long way to go. So it's not about using data from years ago. It's actually thinking about ways in which we can use data going forward and in the future, which give us a better sense of the way the economy works in terms of the way our lives are lived within our country.
Richard, all this talk of data and indicators, how's your wellbeing at the moment?
How's my wellbeing? Well, the cats are back in town, so I'm feeling pretty good about how things are going. How's
I don't know whether the
Sarah?
AFL ladder is actually on your list of wellbeing indicators, Richard.
Well, I mean, you could take data from that potentially.
Jane, in Geelong, it definitely... In Geelong, it definitely is. That will be part of the way in which we measure our budget is how the cats are playing. There's no doubt about that.
All right. Well, I mean, Jane, in all seriousness, now, obviously a lot has happened in the past few years, including a pandemic, which has impacted all of our well-being. So what is the point of this report? Do you feel like it's a bit of a waste of time?
Well, I do think it's an excuse to look at anything other than what's important to Australians, which of course is their hip pocket. That, as I said, the cost of living is the #1 issue, and it should be the #1 issue for the government too, bringing down that cost of living, because let's face it, the government's responsibility is to improve your standard of living overall, and the only way you can do that is to put more money into people's pockets of their own money.
Now to an embarrassing blow for the Treasurer this morning. His long-awaited report gauging Australians' feelings about house prices and aged care funding revealed to have used data that's long out of date. Nine Federal Politics reporter Eliza Edwards joins us live now from Canberra. Eliza, good morning. Some of the data gaps extend for several years.
They do, Sarah. The Treasurer's first wellbeing framework is out today. It measures how Australians are tracking in their health, home lives and broader environment. Then these markers will be tracked over time. The first report points to people living longer, having more job opportunities and higher incomes. On the flip side, we're seeing higher rates of chronic illness. It's harder to access healthcare and we're facing new online threats. There are concerns, though, about the usefulness of this report because in many cases, as you say, Sarah, it's based on very old data, predating COVID lockdowns, cost of living hardships and rate hikes as well. We'll see how Jim Chalmers responds to this today.
All right, Eliza, thank you.
It's weird. It's a very strange set of circumstances. Moving on, the Treasurer has been busy. He's suffering a little bit of a setback this morning, though. He's long awaited. I mean, I'm not sure who's been waiting for this, but the wellbeing report due to be handed down today. That's right, a wellbeing report with large parts of it relying on out-of-date data. Barnaby, parts of this report relying on data from 2017. The wellbeing report. Off you go.
Mate, I don't know how well I'm being, but it's not too well. And this net satisfaction rating, what is this about? It sounds like something you get from a kumbaya session. I mean, this whole idea of I'll tell you, he's not feeling satisfied, Treasurer. The pensioner who can't pay their power bill, the person who's changing what they have to put in their grocery because they don't, in their shopping trolley, because they just don't have the dough anymore. The person who can't afford to make their house payments. I don't think they're feeling net satisfied plus. I think they're feeling net satisfied minus. And, mate, I'll give you another tip. We've gone metric, so get rid of your imperial data and go metric.
I mean, he's not wrong about people out there really struggling at the moment, and I'm not sure where this report fits in and how it's going to be spun.
The report says that people aren't having any trouble paying their mortgages. Well, if it's taken from 2020, the rates were 0.1%. Of course they weren't having trouble. But it also doesn't take into account the mental health problems that people suffered during the pandemic, which we know were through the roof. It says mentally we're doing well. It's completely out of date and completely useless.
Pauline Hanson's been busy overnight talking to News Limited. She's accused the PM of using his upbringing in a housing commission unit to win sympathy from voters, saying he's forgotten what it's like to do it tough. Barnaby, this might just needle the PM a little.
Yeah, look, we saw the other day on commercial radio and even on ABC, the glass jaw is starting to show a bit, and I get under his skin, but that's understandable. I get under a lot of people's skins. But yeah, the log cabin story's kind of run out. Albo, we're over the log cabin story. That's a great credit to your mum, without a shadow of a doubt. Great credit to your mum, how she brought you up. Not so much to do with you, but what people really don't even want to hear about your history. They want to hear about what you're going to do to bring down their power bill. And if every time they hear you, the only thing you want to talk about is the voice, they just go, well, mate, I don't think you're actually tuned in to me. I think you're fascinated in the philosophical and you're fascinated in Canberra and you're not listening to me.
The PM's got some work to do.
Of course he does. Yeah. And he's not the only one out of touch, other than Barnaby, of course. All politicians are out of touch. When was the last time a politician worked at a normal job and actually experienced what everyday Australians experience? They're in the Canberra bubble. Now, of course, Barnaby's there in the bush and it's different in the bush. But so many politicians have never worked like an everyday Australian. Many of them were political staffers, haven't run a business, haven't worked at a normal job. They should be forced to do what we all have to do, the rest of us, pay a mortgage and work at a normal job.
Dig some ditches. I'm not saying this job's normal.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.